What will cost humanity more? To submit to technological progress or to reject it? The question hung on a giant screen behind Oprah Winfrey, Keanu Reeves, and Elon Musk, as millions of viewers around the world tuned in to watch live coverage of what the press has dubbed the debate of the century. The massive Dolby Center in Los Angeles was packed to capacity. Celebrities, tech gurus, political power brokers, journalists, they all came to witness this clash of opposing visions of humanity's future. The tension in the air was almost palpable. Keanu Reeves appeared on stage with his signature quiet confidence. He was dressed in a smart black suit, which contrasted with Elon Musk's casual style of dark jeans and a t-shirt under a jacket. This difference in their appearance already symbolized the conflict between the worlds they represented. Applause thundered through the vast room, but Keanu barely acknowledged it, offering only a small nod and his famously shy smile. Across from him, sitting in a high-backed chair under the blinding stage lights, Elon Musk looked confident and a little impatient. "Good evening, and welcome to our special event," Oprah began, her commanding voice instantly silencing the room. "Today we have a unique opportunity to hear two of the most extraordinary figures of our time discuss the future that is already upon us. Artificial intelligence, humanity's savior or its replacement?" The cameras panned to the faces of both guests. Musk looked animated, his fingers lightly tapping the arm of his chair. Keanu remained unperturbed, his eyes scanning the room and his opponent. "Elon," Oprah said, "you're the CEO of Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, and many other companies that are literally shaping our future. Why is this discussion so important to you?" Musk leaned forward, his expression smug. "You know, Oprah, I think we're at the most important moment in human history," he began confidently. "What we do now with AI will determine whether we have a future at all. And I think it's really important for people to understand that the AI revolution is not an if, it's a when, and that when is now." The audience listened, spellbound. Oprah nodded and turned to another guest. "Keanu, you are known not only for your roles in films, but also for your philosophical views on life. What brought you to this debate?" Keanu adjusted his jacket, his expression calm and thoughtful. "Thank you, Oprah. I'm here because I believe that we are now facing a choice that will determine not only what we do, but who we become. Technology has always been a tool, but for the first time in history, we are creating a tool that can surpass its creator. And I think we need to take a very hard look at what that means for our humanity." Musk chuckled slightly, shaking his head. "I have to admit," he began with a grin, "I was a little surprised when you accepted the invitation. You know, AI is the future. Hollywood, on the other hand, it's just nostalgia." His voice carried an unmistakable condescension, and the audience chuckled, sensing the bait he was throwing his guest. Keanu, however, remained unfazed. "You know, Elon," he said quietly, "nostalgia has a way of reminding us what it means to be human. Can AI do that?" The crowd began to murmur. Musk's grin faltered for a second, but he quickly regained his composure. "Come on," he snorted. "You can romanticize it all you want, but the facts are the facts. AI can already generate scripts, create realistic actors, and even compose music. In a few years, Hollywood won't need real people. Machines don't need breaks. They don't have egos, and they don't age." He paused, his eyes narrowing. "Keanu, you're 60 now, aren't you? Do you really think people will still want to watch you instead of a perfectly optimized digital actor?" Several members of the audience gasped. It was a low blow, but it was classic Musk, brash, direct, and always in control. The camera zoomed in on Musk's face, waiting for a reaction, waiting for a crack in his composure. Instead, Keanu simply smiled, an almost knowing smile, as if he had seen this all before. He exhaled softly and leaned forward slightly, mirroring Musk's posture. "Elon," he said, his voice calm and measured, "have you ever looked at a sunset?" The room went silent. Musk blinked, his eyebrows drawing together in confusion. "Sunset?" he repeated as if trying to figure out what that had to do with their debate. "Yes," Keanu continued, his tone almost conversational. "You can photograph it. You can create perfect AI renderings. You can even simulate colors and shadows with absolute precision. But that doesn't mean you've experienced it." The audience held its breath, waiting for Musk's answer. The billionaire opened his mouth, then closed it again, clearly unsettled. Keanu leaned back, letting the words sink in before adding, "There's something about being present, about being there in the moment, that no AI can replicate. And that's what makes art, stories, and humanity irreplaceable." The audience burst into applause. Oprah tried to hide her smile as she watched the crowd's reaction. Musk's grin was gone, replaced by something else, almost unreadable. For the first time, he was not in control of the conversation, but he was not ready to give up. Okay, Keanu, he said, forcing a chuckle. That's a good analogy, but let's be realistic. AI doesn't just replicate experiences, it improves them. It can process data millions of times faster than humans. It can learn, adapt, and optimize. Musk stood up and began pacing the stage, his energy growing with each word. Do you know what that means? It means that the movies of the future won't just be better than today's, they'll be scientifically perfect. AI will predict exactly what viewers want before they even realize it themselves. People won't miss human actors because the experience will be flawless. Musk's confidence was returning. He leaned back, crossing his arms as if challenging Keanu to an argument. The cameras panned to the audience. Some people nodded in agreement, others looked puzzled. This was where the real battle was taking place. Not just between two men, but between two visions of the future. Keanu's fingers tapped lightly on the armrest, as if mirroring Musk's gesture. That's an interesting point, he said thoughtfully. But let me ask you something. If AI is so perfect, why do people still listen to live music instead of just listening to flawless AI-generated versions? Why do people still go to Broadway instead of just watching digital recreations? Why do people still crave real-life interactions when technology can simulate almost anything? The noise in the crowd grew louder. Even Musk seemed slightly taken aback by the question. Before he could answer, Keanu turned his gaze to the audience and smiled. Let me ask you all something, he said, his voice booming across the room. If you believe that human creativity, this raw, imperfect, beautiful way we make art, will always matter more than AI perfection, type 9 in the comments right now. The live chat exploded with the number 9. Audience members, phones in hand, immediately began typing. Within seconds, the flood of nines became so massive that the moderators could barely keep up with all the messages. The energy in the room shifted. Musk's jaw tightened. He was losing them, but he wasn't ready to give in yet. He leaned forward, gripping the arms of his chair. You're missing the bigger picture, he said, his voice sharpening. This isn't just entertainment. This is efficiency. This is progress. Humans are slow. They make mistakes. They are emotional. AI doesn't have these weaknesses, and in the end, it's not about what we want, it's about what we need. Oprah tried to intervene. Maybe we should, but Keanu raised his hand slightly, stopping her. She stepped back, intuitively sensing that the decisive moment was approaching. Keanu tilted his head slightly, considering Musk's words. Then, without breaking eye contact, he asked, Somersuni, do you think intelligence is measured by how well something replaces people, or by how well it helps them? The question hung in the air like a weight. Musk's cheeks twitched slightly, a barely noticeable movement, but the cameras caught it. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Keanu continued, his voice calm but firm. The real question is not whether AI can replace us, he said. The real question is whether we should let it do so. The audience applauded again, louder and longer this time. Musk's face was unreadable, but for the first time there was no witty retort, no sarcastic comment. I think, Oprah interjected, her voice barely able to be heard over the applause, we're on to something really important. Let's take a short break and continue this fascinating discussion in a few minutes. As the lights dimmed for a commercial break, cameras caught Elon Musk leaning forward and whispering something to his assistant. His face looked tense, almost angry. He was typing quickly on his phone, occasionally glancing at Keanu. Keanu remained calm, carefully accepting a glass of water from the staffer. When their eyes met, Musk turned away first. Viewers in the broadcast chat went crazy. The hashtag #KeanuVivia's mask has already taken the first place in global trends. Analysts in the studios of news channels hastily commented on the first round of this epic confrontation. We've only just begun, Oprah whispered, leaning toward Keanu. He smiled, but his eyes remained serious. I know, he answered quietly, and I'm ready. At that moment, the assistant returned to Musk, handing him the tablet. The billionaire looked at the screen, and his lips stretched into a cold smile. Here's my secret weapon, he muttered under his breath, running his finger across the screen. In 30 seconds, they would be back on the air, and no one in the audience could have guessed what Elon Musk had in store for the next round. A demonstration that could forever change the course of this debate, and perhaps the future of humanity. Keanu exhaled, preparing for the next attack. The battle for the future was just beginning. The lights in the hall flared up again. The audience, which had managed to burst into a flurry of comments on social networks during the short break, now fell silent in anticipation. The live broadcast was now watched by a record number of people. Analysts reported more than 83 million simultaneous views worldwide. Oprah Winfrey returned to center stage, her perfect smile contrasting with the almost palpable tension between the two guests. "We're back to our debate about the future of AI and humanity," she announced. "Elon, did you want to respond to Keanu's recent comments?" Musk sat up straighter in his chair. His posture had changed. It was no longer just self-assured, but something resembling anticipation. In one hand, he held the tablet his assistant had recently handed him. "Yeah, sure," he began, tapping his fingers on the screen of his device. Keanu was talking about how AI can't replace human experience and emotion. "It's touching, really." He paused, letting the sarcasm hang in the air. "But let's move from poetry to reality. You talk about sunsets and feelings, Keanu, but I want to show you and all the viewers what is already happening right now." Musk turned to the giant screen behind him and pressed a button on his tablet. The screen came to life, and the audience collectively held its breath. Keanu Reeves appeared on the screen, or at least something that looked exactly like him. Same posture, same movements, absolutely identical face. The digital Keanu smiled from the screen and spoke in a voice that was indistinguishable from the original. "Hello, world. I was created in just 24 hours using the latest advances in artificial intelligence." The audience gasped. The cameras cut to the real Keanu, who studied his digital copy with a straight face. Musk leaned back, his face lighting up with a triumphant grin. "There he is," the billionaire said, pointing at the screen. "A perfect copy of Keanu Reeves, created by algorithms without the participation of actors, stunt doubles, or expensive special effects. He looks like you, moves like you, talks like you. And you know what's most amazing?" Musk paused dramatically. "This AI will never grow old, never get tired, never ask for a raise. It can act in films 24 hours a day, 7 days a week." The AI version of Keanu on screen performed a series of moves. He rolled over his shoulder, kicked in the air, and then performed a complex trick that was a clear reference to the famous scene from The Matrix. "And this is just the beginning," Musk continued. "I've personally invested billions of dollars into developing this technology, and it's improving every day." He turned to face the real Keanu, his gaze hardening. "So tell me, Keanu, what future awaits actors like you in a world where any celebrity can be recreated in a matter of hours? Studios are already making deals to make films using digital doubles. How long do you think audiences will pay to see the real you on screen?" Musk now spoke directly to the cameras. "And by the way, dear viewers, imagine movies where your favorite actors never age. Imagine a new movie with Marilyn Monroe and James Dean, or with young versions of actors who are now over 60. This is not the future. It is already the present." The room fell into a tense silence. Several famous Hollywood actors present in the audience exchanged worried glances. The digital Keanu on the screen continued his perfect performance, demonstrating superhuman abilities and charisma. Oprah turned to the real Keanu, whose face remained remarkably calm. It seemed the demonstration had not had the effect Musk had hoped for. "Keanu," she began, "that's a pretty compelling demonstration of the technology. What do you think of it?" Keanu stood up slowly, squared his shoulders, and took a deep breath. Instead of looking at the screen, he looked straight into Musk's eyes. "You know, Elon," he began in his signature calm voice, "what you showed was really impressive. Technologically, it's amazing." Musk started to smile smugly, but Keanu wasn't finished. "But you demonstrated exactly what I was talking about earlier. You created a copy, a perfect copy on the outside. But where is the soul in this copy?" Several people in the audience nodded approvingly. "You can recreate my movements," Keanu continued. "You can imitate my voice. But can this copy feel? Can it love? Can it truly understand what it means to be human?" Musk snorted and rolled his eyes. "This is sentimental nonsense, Keanu. The audience does not care whether the actor has a soul on screen. They care about the spectacle, the story, the emotions they experience, and our neural networks are already able to evoke these emotions even better than real actors." Keanu shook his head and did something unexpected. He walked closer to Musk, closing the distance between them. "Do you really think that?" he asked. "That the essence of art is simply to manipulate the audience's emotions, as if it were some kind of formula?" Musk straightened up, clearly uncomfortable with Keanu's physical proximity. "I think art is something that makes people feel. And if AI can make them feel, who cares who or what created the art?" Keanu smiled, but not the smile that viewers were used to seeing in his films. This smile was mysterious, almost predatory. He turned to the audience. "Well," he said, as if making an important decision, "I think it's time to show my cards." The room froze. Even Oprah looked surprised. "Elon has shown us his technology," Keanu continued. "Now let me tell you something I've kept secret for the last 5 years." He took a deep breath. 5 years ago, I began investing a significant portion of my fortune in the development of artificial intelligence. A hum swept through the room. Musk blinked, his face showing undisguised surprise. A raking. But unlike many tech companies, including yours, Elon, I have not invested in AI that replaces humans, but in AI that protects them. Keanu gestured for the technicians to show something on the big screen. The digital copy of Keanu disappeared, and in its place was a series of graphs, charts, and codes. This is Project Shield, Keanu said, pointing at the screen. Technology that can detect, tag, and authenticate any human-created content, distinguishing it from AI-generated content. He turned to Musk. You create tools that replace creators. I create tools that give creators the ability to prove that their work is authentic. The audience began to buzz. Many people's faces showed relief and hope. But that's not all, Keanu continued. While Elon and other tech companies were trying to create AI that could mimic human creativity, my team created AI that amplifies human creativity, making it deeper, more authentic, more human. A series of images appeared on the screen. Artists working with strange interfaces, musicians using unusual instruments, writers interacting with holographic displays. We call it symbiosis, Keanu explained. Technology that doesn't replace human creativity, but rather integrates with it, making it stronger, deeper, and richer. Musk looked stunned. He opened and closed his mouth several times before finally speaking. You invested in AI? You? He let out a nervous laugh. Keanu Reeves, the Hollywood actor, is secretly developing AI technology? Keanu nodded, his face serious. Yes, Elon, because I realized something important. The future of artificial intelligence should not be determined only by those who see it as a way to replace humans. He turned back to the audience. We have created protocols that are already used by thousands of artists, musicians, writers, and actors around the world. Technologies that allow them to preserve their identity, their uniqueness in a world where they are being replaced by algorithms. The cameras showed the faces of the spectators. Many of them looked shocked, but there was hope in their eyes. And here's the most important part, Keanu paused. I'm not keeping this technology secret or behind patent barriers. We've made it open and available to all creators in the world. Musk rose from his seat, his face contorted with anger. Do you understand what you're doing? He almost hissed. You're trying to stop progress. You're trying to keep humanity stuck in the past because you're so afraid of the future. Keanu shook his head, remaining surprisingly calm in the face of the enraged billionaire. No, Elon, I don't stop progress. I direct it. These are different things. Oprah tried to intervene. Gentlemen, let's... But Musk interrupted her. That's ridiculous. He pointed at the screen. Your technology, whatever it does, won't be able to stop what I showed you. It's only a matter of time before AI replaces most creative professions. It's inevitable. Inevitable? Keanu echoed. Nothing is inevitable, Elon. The future is not set in stone. It is created by our decisions, our actions. Right now. He stepped back, and a new series of images appeared on the screen. Ordinary people using strange devices that appeared to work with SHIELD technology. As we speak, thousands of people are already using our technology to protect what makes them unique. And you know what's most amazing? Keanu smiled. They choose to do this voluntarily, because people don't want to be replaced. They want to be enhanced. The room erupted in applause. Musk looked as if he had been punched in the gut. He turned to his assistant, who was typing feverishly on a laptop, apparently trying to find information about Keanu's project. That's impossible, Musk muttered, but his voice was no longer as confident. I would have known about it. My people monitor every significant AI development in the world. Keanu laughed softly. Maybe, Elon, you were too busy trying to replace the world around you to notice those who were trying to save it. The audience burst into laughter and applause. Someone in the back rows even whistled with delight. Musk turned purple with anger and embarrassment. It's a bluff, he said, raising his voice. You're bluffing. There is no technology that can so reliably distinguish human creativity from that created by AI. It's technically impossible. Really, Keanu asked, nodding to the technicians. Code appeared on the screen. A complex, multi-layered algorithm with annotations. Next to Musk, his assistant straightened up and whispered something in his ear. The billionaire's face paled noticeably. Is this a real code? He asked, his voice dropping almost to a whisper. Very real, Keanu confirmed. And it works. Right now, our system is analyzing your digital copy of me and marking every pixel as AI generated. He pointed to another part of the screen, where a digital copy of Keanu had appeared, but now with a color mask overlaid on it, marking the entire image as artificial. But the most important thing is not that we can detect counterfeits, Keanu continued. It's that we can protect authenticity. Any creator can use our technology to put an unforgeable digital signature on their work, proving that it was created by a human and not a machine. Now the entire audience was on their feet, applauding. Some even cried with relief. There were many creative professionals in the audience, and for them this was the first good news in a long time. Musk stood frozen as a statue, his eyes glued to the screen. For the first time all evening, he looked more than just annoyed or surprised. He looked scared. "Do you realize what you've done?" he asked finally, his voice strangely quiet. "You've just started a technological war." Keanu shook his head. "No, Elon, I just leveled the playing field. Now it's not just AI that can improve its capabilities. Humans can too." He turned to the audience and made a sweeping gesture. "Imagine a world where AI doesn't replace us, but complements us, where technology amplifies our best qualities, rather than trying to imitate them, where creators use tools that make their work deeper, more meaningful, rather than being rendered obsolete by those tools." Oprah, who had been silently watching the standoff, finally spoke up. "Keanu, this is revolutionary, but why did you keep it a secret for so long?" Keanu smiled slightly. Because Oprah, there are those who have invested billions in technologies that replace people, and they would not want technology to exist that protects people from being replaced." His gaze slid briefly to Musk, who was now whispering feverishly to his assistant. "We needed time to roll out the system widely enough that it could no longer be stopped. And today we have reached that point. Project Shield is now used by over 5 million creators worldwide and is spreading exponentially." Musk finally moved away from his assistant and took a step toward Keanu, his face contorted with poorly concealed rage. "You think you've won?" he asked, his voice shaking. "You think your little shield technology can stop what's already started? AI is exponential, Keanu. What works today will be overtaken by new algorithms tomorrow." Keanu nodded, acknowledging the validity of that argument. "You're right, Elon. It's an arms race. But the difference is that now both sides are in the race." He pointed to the screen where dozens of young, bright faces appeared. Engineers, programmers, designers. This is the team of the Shield and Symbiosis projects. The best minds from all over the world who believe that technology should enhance humanity, not replace it. And you know what's most amazing? Keanu paused and smiled. "Many of them used to work for you, Elon." Musk looked like he'd been punched. He turned sharply to his assistant, who awkwardly looked away, confirming Keanu's words. This is betrayal," Musk breathed out. "No," Keanu replied calmly. "It's a choice. A choice people make when they are given an alternative future where they're replaced by machines." He turned to the audience again. "And now each of you has this choice. Right now you can go to shieldproject.org and download tools that will protect your creativity, your uniqueness, your humanity from those who are trying to replace them with algorithms." Phone screens began to glow throughout the hall as audience members began typing in the address. Social media mentions of the Shield project skyrocketed. Musk stood, his fists clenched, his face contorted with rage and impotence. He knew he had lost this round. Not just the debate, but a significant chunk of public support for his vision of the AI future. "This is not the end," he said quietly, almost menacingly. "You think you've protected the humans, but you've only delayed the inevitable. The AI will still win." Keanu shook his head, his eyes shining with calm confidence. "No, Elon. AI will not win or lose. Humans will win or lose depending on how they choose to use this technology. And today," he gestured to the room full of people hanging on his every word, "I think humans have made their choice." The audience erupted in applause, which turned into a standing ovation. Cameras showed people hugging, crying with relief, chanting Keanu's name. Oprah, with her unerring sense of the climax, raised her hands for silence. "I think," she said when the hubbub died down a bit, "that we've just witnessed a historic moment. A moment when the direction of artificial intelligence may have changed forever." She turned to Keanu. "But Keanu, you must understand that what you did today will cause a powerful backlash from those who invested in a different vision of the future. Are you prepared for that?" Keanu looked at Musk, then at the cameras broadcasting his face to millions of viewers around the world. His eyes were clear, determined, and strangely calm for a man who had just taken on the most powerful tech corporations on the planet. "I've spent my life playing heroes on screen," he said, "but the real heroes are the ordinary people who stand up every day and fight for what they believe in. And yes, I'm ready for that fight, because the alternative is a world where our humanity becomes just another resource to be exploited." Musk, who was now looking at his tablet screen, looked up sharply. Your shield stock just dropped 15%, he said with a cold smile. My people are already working on bypassing your technology. It's only a matter of time. Keanu smiled, completely unafraid of the threat. Maybe, he admitted, but you know what we have that your algorithms don't? Musk frowned. So what? Keanu gestured broadly to the audience. People, Elon. Millions of people who now know they have a choice. And technology, no matter how powerful, can never defeat the human spirit when it is united in a common purpose. The room erupted in applause again. Musk's face contorted with anger. He stood up abruptly, snatched the microphone, and threw it on the floor. This is not the end, he shouted before quickly leaving the stage, his assistants hurrying after him. Keanu remained standing center stage, somewhat stunned by his opponent's dramatic exit, but firm in his resolve. Oprah walked up to him and took his hand. What now, she asked, and it seemed like the whole world was asking the same question. Keanu looked straight into the camera, his eyes shining with conviction. We are now building the future, Oprah. Not the one that is forced upon us, but the one that we choose. And I invite everyone who can hear me to join in this choice. Oprah turned to the camera. And here we take a break. Stay tuned. The debate of the century will continue after a short commercial break. When the cameras turned off, Keanu exhaled and let the tension of the last few minutes show on his face for a moment. He glanced in the direction Musk had gone, knowing the tech mogul would not give in so easily. Oprah leaned towards him and whispered, "Do you really understand what you just did?" Keanu nodded, his eyes serious. "Yes," he answered quietly. "I just declared war on the most powerful corporations in the world." The doors at the back of the room slammed open, and a group of suited men, some with security earpieces visible, walked in. They moved purposefully toward the stage. "And it looks like," Keanu added with a slight smile, "the first battle is starting right now." As the red lights of the cameras flashed again, signaling the resumption of live broadcasts, the atmosphere in the room was electric. The men in formal suits who had entered during the break took up positions at the edge of the stage. This was Elon Musk's enhanced security detail, sent in after his dramatic exit. Oprah Winfrey returned to center stage, her professionalism not allowing her to show how tense the situation had become backstage. "We continue our historic debate about the future of artificial intelligence and humanity," she announced. "Mr. Musk has returned to us." Elon Musk emerged from behind the curtain. His appearance had undergone a noticeable change. He looked collected, cool, and determined. His whole appearance suggested that he had now switched from defense to offense. "Thank you, Oprah," Musk nodded, sitting back in his chair. "Please forgive my emotional outburst. Sometimes even I need to take a break." His words elicited nervous laughter from the audience. Keanu continued to sit calmly in his chair, studying his opponent with a new, more attentive gaze. "Keanu," Oprah said, "there's been a real explosion on social media during the hiatus. The Rush Out and Shield hashtag has become the most popular hashtag in the world, and your website seems to be struggling due to the huge influx of traffic." "Yes," Keanu nodded with a slight smile. "Our servers are working at the limit right now. We didn't expect such an immediate response, but it only confirms what I was saying. People want choice. They want to be involved in shaping their future." Musk gave a short, dry laugh. "Let's be honest, Keanu," he said, crossing his arms. "What you did was a fantastic PR move. Bravo, really. But let's step away from the emotion and talk about economic realities." He sat up straight in his chair, his voice sharp and businesslike. "The fact is that AI-generated content is cheaper. It's faster. It's scalable. Corporations and businesses don't make decisions based on philosophical debates or emotional attachments. They look at the balance." Musk pointed to the audience. "You can convince some people to use your shield, but companies will always choose what increases profits and reduces costs. AI does both." Keanu nodded, acknowledging the argument. "You're right about the economy, Elon, but there's something else you're forgetting." "And what is that?" Musk asked, a hint of condescension in his voice. "Cultural value," Keanu replied. "People are willing to pay more for authenticity. We see it in everything from organic food to handmade items, from live concerts to original works of art." He paused, letting the thought linger. "AI may be cheaper, but it will never be authentic, and our technology allows consumers to see the difference. It gives them a choice." Musk shook his head. "Cultural value," he repeated incredulously. "For a niche audience, perhaps. But the mass market? People say they care about authenticity, and then they go and buy whatever's cheaper." He leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Do you know how much it costs to make a movie using real actors, real locations, physical special effects? Hundreds of millions of dollars. Do you know how much the same movie would cost if made with AI in 5 years? A few million. In 10 years, maybe a few thousand." Musk made a sweeping gesture with his hand. Studios won't pay 100 times more just for authenticity, and consumers, no matter how idealistic they are at the moment, won't pay 10 times more for tickets to see real actors instead of their perfect AI copies. The audience began to buzz, with some nodding in agreement. Musk's economic arguments sounded compelling, especially to the businessmen in the room. Keanu paused before answering. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but confident. You measure value only in money, Elon. But there are things that cannot be valued in dollars. Oh, please, Musk rolled his eyes. Don't start talking about sunsets and emotions again. No, Keanu shook his head. I'm talking about cultural significance and human development. Art doesn't exist just for entertainment or profit. It exists to help us understand ourselves, our place in the world, our fears, dreams, and possibilities. He stood up and took a few steps across the stage, his movements smooth and confident. When we hand over the creation of art to machines, we give up a vital tool for self-knowledge. We give up part of what makes us human. Musk snorted. It sounds nice, but it's just sentimental thinking. Technological progress always changes the way art is created and consumed. Printing, photography, cinema, digital technology. Every time traditionalists screamed that this was the end of real art, and every time they were wrong. He pointed at Keanu. You're just another Luddite yelling at the locomotive of history as it hurtles toward the future. The comment drew a mixed reaction from the audience, with some murmuring approval and others objecting indignantly. Suddenly, a man stood up from the rows. The cameras turned, and the audience recognized Robert Downey Jr., a famous actor who has been actively investing in tech startups in recent years. Can I say something? He asked, and Oprah, after a moment's hesitation, nodded. Elon, Downey began, his voice clear through the portable microphone that was quickly handed to him. I respect you as an innovator, but you're missing the point. Art is not just a product. It's a process. It's a dialogue between creator and audience. He turned, addressing the audience. I played Tony Stark for over 10 years, and algorithms didn't create this role. It was created by scriptwriters, directors, cameramen, makeup artists, costume designers, and yes, myself, with all my shortcomings, experience, and intuition. Downey looked directly at Musk. An AI can imitate the result, but it cannot reproduce the process. And it is in this process, in this human interaction, that what we call art is born. The room erupted in applause. Musk looked annoyed at the unexpected interruption. Robert, he said when the noise died down, nobody is saying that AI can completely replicate the creative process, but for the consumer, only the end result matters. Most viewers don't care how the film they're watching was made. They care about the emotions they experience. He turned to the audience. Let's be honest. If a new Iron Man movie came out tomorrow with a perfectly recreated Tony Stark created by AI, how many of you would refuse to watch it on principle? An awkward silence fell in the hall. Many spectators looked at each other, not knowing how to respond. Keanu took advantage of the moment. That's exactly the problem, Elon. You imagine a future where people have no choice, where decisions are made for them based on pure economics. But I believe in a future where technology serves humanity, not the other way around. He glanced around the room, and I think many people here agree with me. They want to have a choice. They want to know whether they are looking at the work of a human or a machine. They want to decide for themselves what is more valuable to them. Musk sighed with obvious irritation. Okay, let's talk about choice. You say you want to give people choice, but what if they choose AI? What if the average consumer decides they don't care who created what they consume, as long as it's high quality and affordable? He pointed to Keanu. What then? Are you going to continue to insist that people should pay more for authenticity, even if they don't want it? Keanu shook his head. No, Elon. If people make a conscious choice to consume AI content, knowing all the facts, I'll accept that. But the key word here is conscious. Right now, most people don't even know they're watching AI-generated content. They can't tell the difference between real and artificial. Our technology just gives them that information. Keanu took a step forward, his voice becoming passionate. All I want is for people to have the tools to make informed decisions, so that they can see the difference between what is human-made and what is algorithm-made, and then let them decide for themselves. Musk was silent for a few seconds, and then suddenly changed tactics. You know, I just got a message from my team, he said, pointing to his phone. Your SHIELD project has encountered a serious problem. Our engineers just demonstrated that the technology can be bypassed with 80% efficiency. Shock ran through the room. Keanu frowned, looking at Musk. It's impossible. Our technology uses quantum cryptography and blockchain for authentication. It can't be bypassed without access to the creator's private keys. Musk grinned. clearly enjoying the moment. It turns out it is possible. And you know what? This is just the beginning. In a month, we will be able to bypass it with 95% efficiency. And in 6 months, your shield will become useless. He leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. That's the problem with technological solutions, Keanu. They're always temporary. Every defense can be hacked. Every wall can be bypassed. It's a never-ending arms race, and companies like mine have far more resources to spend on that race than your little band of idealists. Keanu didn't look shocked by the news. Instead, he smiled calmly. You're right, Elon. This is indeed an arms race, but you're forgetting something important. So what? Musk asked with noticeable smugness. We have a lot more people on our side than you think, Keanu replied, including some of the most talented engineers in the world, many of whom used to work for you and your competitors. He took his phone out of his pocket. And by the way, I just got a message too. Our team is already aware of your hacking attempt. In fact, we were expecting it. And as we speak, the update that fixes this vulnerability is already being distributed to our users. It was Musk's turn to look surprised. He quickly checked his phone and frowned, apparently having received confirmation of Keanu's words. You see, Elon, Keanu continued, his voice calm but confident, the problem isn't technology, it's philosophy. You see a world where technology should replace people for efficiency and profit. I see a world where technology should enhance people, make them better, help them reach their potential. He paused, looking straight into Musk's eyes. And you know what's most interesting? People instinctively understand the difference between these two approaches. They sense which one is really in their interests. Musk began to look irritated. You keep speaking on behalf of the people as if there is some kind of consensus, but the reality is much more complex. Some people will choose efficiency and accessibility, even if that means the content is created by machines. Others will choose authenticity and are willing to pay more for it. The market is big enough for both approaches. Keanu nodded. We agree on that. I never said that AI shouldn't exist or that it doesn't have its place. I'm just saying that people should know what they're interacting with and have a choice. He took a few steps towards Musk. But let's talk about what I really don't understand, Elon. You're one of the most innovative entrepreneurs of our time. You built electric cars when everyone said they couldn't be done. You launched rockets that returned to Earth when everyone said they were science fiction. You constantly challenge the status quo. Keanu stopped a few steps from Musk's chair. So why, when it comes to AI, do you choose the most obvious, the most predictable path? Why can't you imagine a more creative, more innovative use for this technology than simply replacing humans? A murmur went through the room. The question seemed to catch Musk off guard. He paused for a moment before answering. I'm not talking about replacing people in the sense you mean. I'm talking about automating tasks that can be done more efficiently. Keanu didn't back down. But is creativity simply a task? Is art simply a product to be optimized? Or is there something more to it, something that connects us to our humanity? Musk took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. Art is important, Keanu, but it is constantly evolving, and AI is just the next step in that evolution. It is not the end of human creativity, it is its transformation. What if it's not? Keanu asked quietly. What if, instead of transforming, it's fading? What if we lose something fundamental by handing over creativity to machines? Musk waved his hand in irritation. These are all theoretical questions, Keanu. In the real world, people make decisions based on cost, convenience, and quality. And on these parameters, AI content will win more and more every year. He leaned forward. That's what I don't understand. Why are you so afraid of the future? Why do you cling to the past when you can embrace and shape the future? Keanu smiled, and this smile was full of genuine regret. I'm not afraid of the future, Elon. I'm afraid of a future in which we've lost what makes us human, in which we've become so caught up in efficiency and optimization that we've forgotten about meaning and value. He turned to the audience. Technology should serve humanity, not the other way around. AI should be a tool that enhances our abilities, not replaces us. It should unlock our potential, not make us obsolete. The room erupted in applause. Even some of Musk's staffers, standing against the walls, seemed moved by Keanu's words. Musk shook his head, his face a mixture of irritation and disbelief. Beautiful words, Keanu. But at the end of the day, they are just words. Reality is determined by actions and decisions. And the decisions of most people and companies will be based on economics, not philosophy. He stood up to be on the same level as Keanu. You can stand here and talk about values and meaning, but when it comes to business, those things don't make it into quarterly reports. They don't drive stock prices. They don't drive budgets and investments. Keanu nodded, acknowledging the validity of this argument. You're right, Elon. In today's world, finances often outweigh values. But that doesn't mean it always has to be that way. He paused, his eyes full of determination. What if we could create a model where ethical principles and financial gain are not in conflict? Where companies that respect human creativity and transparency gain a competitive advantage? Musk snorted. Sounds utopian. Didn't electric cars sound utopian 10 years ago? Keanu retorted. And reusable rockets? And the colonization of Mars? These examples from Musk's own projects brought smiles to the audience. Even Oprah, who was trying to remain neutral, couldn't help but smile a little. Musk was silent for a second. Then his face took on a calculating expression. Okay, Keanu, you talk about values and choices. But let's be specific. How exactly do you envision a future where AI and human creativity coexist? How does that work in practice, not in pretty words? Keanu nodded, accepting the challenge. Imagine a world where every piece of digital content has a transparent label of origin, where consumers can instantly see whether it was created by a human, an AI, or a collaboration of both, where creators can choose which aspects of their work to automate and which to keep entirely human. He continued, his voice becoming more animated. Imagine studios proudly advertising their films as human-made because they know a certain audience values that. Imagine other studios creating stunning visual effects with AI, but talking about it openly. Keanu gestured around the room. Imagine a world where technology empowers creators, rather than replacing them. Where AI takes over mundane tasks, freeing humans to do more creative work. Where algorithms help us explore new ideas and possibilities, but the final decisions are ours. Musk listened intently, his expression thoughtful. That sounds interesting, he finally admitted, but it's also incredibly difficult to implement. You're talking about a fundamental change in how the entire digital economy works. Keanu nodded. Yes, it is difficult, but not impossible. And by the way, he smiled, difficult, seemingly impossible problems are exactly what you like to solve, aren't they, Elon? The comment drew laughter from the audience, and even a slight smile from Musk. Touché, he replied, but his eyes quickly returned to a serious expression. Still, I don't think your shield or any other technological solution can change the direction the AI is heading. It's like trying to stop the tide with your bare hands. Keanu shook his head. I'm not trying to stop the tide, Elon. I'm trying to build a ship that will help us float on it, not sink. He paused, looking straight into Musk's eyes. And I wish it was people like you helping build this ship, not just telling us that we're all going to inevitably sink. The comment drew another round of applause. Musk looked slightly surprised, as if he hadn't expected such a direct call to cooperation. Oprah, sensing the importance of the moment, intervened. Perhaps we have reached a point where we can find common ground, where technology and humanity can complement each other rather than conflict. Musk was silent for a few seconds, then slowly shook his head. I appreciate idealism, Keanu, but I'm also a pragmatist, and my intuition, based on decades of working in the tech industry, tells me that the future belongs to the most efficient solutions, and in most cases that means automation and AI. He paused, then added with a hint of sincerity, I don't want a world without human creativity. I just don't believe we can stop its evolution towards greater automation. Keanu nodded thoughtfully. You know, Elon, there is one thing I don't understand. What? Musk asked. If AI is so superior, if it can generate better content, write better scripts, create better visuals, why are you here? Musk frowned. What do you mean? Keanu took a step forward, his voice quiet but audible to everyone in the silent room. I mean, if technology can replace humans, if AI can do everything better than us, why didn't you send an AI version of yourself to this debate? A shock went through the room. The question, so simple and obvious, seemed to catch Musk off guard. He opened his mouth, then closed it, then tried again. This is something completely different. This debate requires real what, Elon? Keanu interrupted gently. Real intelligence? Real emotion? Real understanding? Real presence? He paused, letting the question hang in the air. Isn't that what I've been saying all along? That there are things that require a real person, a real experience, a real soul? The room erupted in applause. People stood up in support. Keanu had hit the nail on the head with a question that exposed a fundamental contradiction in Musk's position. The tech mogul looked stunned, his usual eloquence and confidence gone. He sat there opening and closing his mouth like a fish out of water, unable to come up with a good answer. Oprah, sensing that this was a turning point in the debate, rose slowly from her seat. I think, she said into the silence, that we've just witnessed one of the great philosophical clashes of our time. She glanced at her watch and added, "We're going to take a short break, but when we come back, you'll have a chance to ask your questions of our guests." The cameras showed Musk's face pale, with a muscle twitching nervously in his cheek, and Keanu's, calm but with the quiet confidence of a man who knows he's fighting for the right cause. The red lights of the cameras flashed again. Social media was in a frenzy. The hashtag Keanu mask had racked up over 20 million mentions in the short break. Analysts on air called Keanu's question about why Musk didn't send an AI version of himself to the debate a killer moment and a philosophical knockout. Oprah Winfrey returned to the center of the stage, her presence instantly capturing the attention of the entire audience. "Welcome back to our historical debate," she said, looking around the room. "Before the break, we witnessed a truly fascinating philosophical clash of two visions of the future. Now, as I promised, we turn to questions from the audience." She pointed to the front row, where a woman with short dark hair and distinctive glasses sat. "Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, do you have a question?" AOC stood up, holding the microphone handed to her by her assistant. "Thank you, Oprah. My question is for Mr. Musk." She turned to the tech mogul, who had managed to regain his composure during the break, though he still looked visibly shaken. "Mr. Musk, you have repeatedly said that AI poses an existential threat to humanity, even going so far as to call for regulation of its development. How does that fit with your current position that we should embrace AI as a substitute for human creativity?" A murmur of approval swept through the room. The question was precise and hit Musk where it hurt most. The cameras caught the muscle in his cheek twitching. "That's a good question, Congresswoman," Musk began, trying to sound casual. "There's no contradiction there. I do believe that unsupervised AI could be a threat. That's why I advocate for its development under the oversight of responsible companies like mine." He paused, then continued. "When it comes to creativity, it's not about replacement. It's about transformation. AI can automate certain aspects of the creative process, allowing people to focus on higher levels of creativity. It's an evolution, not a replacement." AOC did not look convinced. "With respect, Mr. Musk, but that is not what you said earlier today. You stated directly that economic factors will inevitably lead to the complete replacement of human creators by artificial intelligence. This does not sound like evolution, but rather like displacement." Musk winced slightly. "I was talking about market trends, not my personal preferences. The market always moves towards efficiency and cost reduction. This is an economic reality." "And your solution," Keanu interjected, having listened silently to the exchange, "is to simply accept this economic reality, even if it leads to a society where human creativity is devalued? Even if it leads to the very existential risk you warned about?" Musk turned to him. "My solution is to be realistic. Technological progress cannot be stopped. It can only be directed. And I prefer to direct it from within rather than try to hold it back from the outside." He made a wide gesture with his hand. "And your SHIELD project is precisely an attempt to contain. It is an illusion of control that will ultimately be swept away by the wave of progress." Keanu shook his head. "No, Elon. The SHIELD is not an attempt to stop progress. It is an attempt to give people a choice and a voice in how that progress is shaped. It is an attempt to create a future where technology serves humanity, not the other way around." He glanced around the room, and judging by the reaction of people here and around the world, many are yearning for exactly this kind of future. A future where they are not simply cast aside by history as obsolete, but where they actively participate in shaping the new world. The crowd burst into applause. AOC returned to her seat with a respectful nod. Oprah pointed to the other side of the room. "We have one more question. Mr. Spielberg?" Legendary director Steven Spielberg rose from his seat, holding the microphone. "My question is for both of you. As a director with over 50 years of experience, I have seen many technological revolutions in cinema, from practical effects to CGI, from film to digital. Each time there were those who predicted the end of real cinema. But cinema survived and adapted." Spielberg paused, looking from Keanu to Musk. "My question is AI fundamentally different from previous technological shifts? And if so, why?" Musk was the first to speak. "I don't think AI is fundamentally different. It's just the next logical step in the technological evolution of cinema. As you said, Stephen, the film industry has always adapted. It will adapt to this." He pointed to the hall. "The only difference is the scale and speed of change. AI can automate and optimize almost every aspect of filmmaking, from script writing to acting to editing. It's not just a new tool, it's a whole new paradigm. Keanu waited for Musk to finish, then stood up and walked closer to Spielberg. Mr. Spielberg, I grew up watching your films. They shaped not only my understanding of cinema, but also my understanding of humanity, empathy, courage, and I think that's the key difference. He paused, choosing his words. Previous technological revolutions in cinema gave creators new tools to tell their stories. AI offers to replace the storytellers themselves. This is not just a new tool. It is a potential replacement for the human soul itself in the creative process. Keanu turned to the rest of the audience. Movies like E.T., Schindler's List, and Saving Private Ryan touch us because through them we come into contact with another person's worldview, their experience, their understanding of the human condition. It's not just entertainment. It's a deeply human, spiritual exchange. He looked at Spielberg again. And here's the danger. AI can mimic the structure and style of such exchanges, but there is no real human experience at its core. No lived life. No personal story of struggle, joy, loss, love. That's why creative AI is fundamentally different from all previous technological revolutions. It doesn't just change the way stories are told, it changes the storyteller. Spielberg nodded slowly, clearly moved by the answer. The room erupted in applause. Even Musk looked thoughtful, as if Keanu's words had forced him to consider a new aspect of the problem. As the applause died down, Musk suddenly rose from his seat, his face serious, almost grim. I want to make something clear, he said, addressing not just Keanu but the entire room. I am not against human creativity. I do not want a world where algorithms replace humans in every aspect of life. He paused as if collecting his thoughts. But I'm also a realist. And the reality is that technological progress has always followed its own path, regardless of what individuals think or want. From the printing press to the internet, every technological revolution has provoked fears and resistance. And each time, society has adapted. Musk turned to Keanu. Your Project Shield may give people the illusion of control, may delay the inevitable for a time, but ultimately, in 100 years, no one will remember this conversation. No one will remember our debates. No one will remember you or me. He paused, letting his words hang in the air. Deron, because progress does not stop for individuals, no matter how noble their intentions. The room fell silent. Musk's words sounded pessimistic, almost fatalistic, but there was a certain harsh truth in them that many felt. Keanu looked at Musk for a long moment, then slowly stood up. His expression was strangely calm, almost compassionate. You know, Elon, he began in a quiet voice that was nevertheless clearly audible in the absolute silence of the room, there's something you don't seem to understand, something fundamental about human nature. He paused, looking straight into Musk's eyes. People don't just adapt to technology, they shape it, they direct it, they give it purpose and meaning. Keanu took a few steps across the stage, his voice growing stronger. You say that in 100 years, no one will remember this conversation. Maybe, but do you know who is really remembered after hundreds and thousands of years? He stopped and looked at the audience. Not those who simply went with the flow of history, accepting the inevitable, but those who had the courage to stand up and say, no, there is a better way. The room began to come alive. Some spectators nodded in agreement. People are remembered not for the machines they built, Keanu continued, his voice filled with passion, but for the values they stood for how they defined what it meant to be human in their time. He took a few more steps towards Musk. You say that my shield gives only the illusion of control, but you know what? All human history is the history of the struggle for control over our destiny, for the right to determine our future, and this struggle has never been an illusion. Keanu turned to the room, looking at everyone. Right now, we all stand at a crossroads. We can simply accept a future where technology determines our worth, where algorithms decide what is worthy of attention and what is not, where efficiency trumps humanity. He paused. Or we can choose a different path, a path where technology serves our highest goals and values, where AI enhances human potential, not replaces it, where we use these incredible tools to become better, wiser, kinder, not just more efficient. The audience began to applaud. First a few people, then dozens, then the entire hall. Musk stood motionless, his face unreadable. When the applause died down, he spoke. Beautiful words, Keanu, really beautiful. But words don't change economic realities. They don't change the fact that companies will always strive for cheaper, more efficient solutions. He threw up his hands. You talk about choice, but in reality, for most people and companies, the choice is obvious. What works better and costs less? What if they had a real choice, Keanu asked. If they knew what they were buying and the difference between human creativity and AI imitation, if there was a real competition of ideas, not just a race to the bottom of the price? Musk snorted. They would have chosen the cheaper option anyway. That's the whole point of capitalism. Not necessarily, Keanu countered. People pay more for organic food when conventional food is cheaper. They pay more for handmade food when machine-made food is cheaper. They pay more for experience, for authenticity, for a connection to human history and creativity. He paused. People aren't just economic units, Elon. They're complex, multifaceted beings with deep emotional and spiritual needs. And those needs aren't always met by the cheapest or most efficient option. Musk shook his head slightly. Maybe. For a small percentage of the population. For the elite who can afford to pay a premium for authenticity. But for the majority, price will always be the deciding factor. Keanu smiled. What if it's not? What if most people actually value human creativity, human connection, human authenticity? What if they've just never had a real choice because the system has been rigged against it? He glanced around the room. That's why I created SHIELD. Not to stop AI, but to give people real, informed choices. To democratize the future of technology, rather than leaving it in the hands of a few corporations and billionaires. The room erupted in applause again. Musk watched the crowd's reaction, and something in his expression changed, as if he were realizing for the first time the scale of public support for Keanu's position. When the applause died down, Musk took a deep breath. Okay, he said, and his voice sounded slightly different, as if he'd made some internal decision. Let's say you're right about values and choice. Let's say people really do want to be able to distinguish between human creativity and AI generation. He looked at Keanu with sudden intensity. But here's what I want to know. Do you really believe that your shield can withstand constant attack from the most powerful AI systems in the world? Do you really think that you can win this technological arms race? Keanu didn't look away. I believe that together we can. Not just me, not my team, but all the people who believe in this future. Millions of developers, artists, writers, musicians, actors, everyone who believes that human creativity has inherent value. He paused. And you know who else could help? You, Elon. These words caused a surprised murmur in the room. Musk looked completely stunned. Me? He asked again with obvious disbelief. Yes, Keanu nodded. Because despite our differences, I know you have a vision for a better future for humanity. You're not just a businessman, you're a dreamer. You want to change the world for the better. He took a few steps towards Musk. Imagine that instead of creating AI that replaces humans, you create AI that enhances them. Instead of building a future where human creativity becomes obsolete, you build a future where it flourishes thanks to new technologies. Keanu extended his hand. Together, we could create a technology ecosystem that serves the best in humanity, rather than replacing it. That enhances our potential, rather than diminishes our value. The room was silent in anticipation. Musk stared at Keanu's outstretched hand, his face unreadable. The seconds dragged on like an eternity. Finally, Musk slowly shook his head. A beautiful dream, Keanu. A really beautiful one. But I remain a realist. He threw up his hands. I don't believe that it is possible to stop what has already begun. AI will continue to develop and become more and more capable of replacing human labor, including creative labor. It's just a matter of time. Musk paused, looking at Keanu almost regretfully. I admire your passion. I do. But in 100 years, when we are both gone, no one will remember this conversation. No one will remember the man who tried to stop the tide with his bare hands. A heavy silence fell over the room. Musk's words sounded like a final verdict, like a cold, inexorable truth that could not be argued with. Keanu looked at him for a long moment, then suddenly smiled. Not a forced, tense smile, but a genuine, almost joyful one. You know, Elon, he said, his voice filled with a strange calm, you just made the same mistake that every self-proclaimed realist in history has made. Musk frowned slightly. And which one? You think you're seeing the future, Keanu replied, his smile widening. But really, you're just seeing the past projected forward. A murmur of surprise went through the room. Musk looked puzzled. What do you mean, he asked. Keanu took a step forward, his eyes shining with confidence. You say that in 100 years, no one will remember me. Maybe. But do you know who is remembered even after thousands of years? He paused. People who didn't just accept the inevitable. People who stood their ground and said, there is a better way. People who changed the course of history because they refused to believe that the future was predetermined. Keanu glanced around the room. Socrates, Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi, Marie Curie, all those who disagreed with the realists of their time, all those who believed that humanity could be better than the cynics predicted. He looked at Musk again. And you know what's ironic, Elon? You were once one of those people. When everyone was saying that electric cars would never be mainstream, that reusable rockets were impossible, that private space companies were doomed to fail, you didn't listen to the realists. You saw a different future. The room fell silent, all eyes on Musk. The tech mogul stood motionless, his face a complex mix of emotions. So my question to you, Elon, Keanu continued, his voice growing quieter but only more shrill. When did you stop being a dreamer? When did you decide that the future was already determined, that we had no choice but to submit to the inevitable? Musk opened his mouth, then closed it. For the first time all evening, he looked genuinely shaken, as if Keanu's words had struck a personal chord. I'm still a dreamer, he finally answered, his voice unsure. I still believe in a better future for humanity. Then why are you so sure that future must involve replacing humans with machines? Keanu asked. Why can't you imagine a world where technology and humanity enhance each other rather than conflict? Musk remained silent, apparently struggling with an internal conflict. Because, he began, then stopped, as if he himself was not sure of the answer. Because it seems inevitable, Keanu prompted gently. Because it's easier, because it requires less imagination, less courage, less faith in humanity? The room held its breath. Musk looked like a man cornered not so much by his opponent as by his own contradictions. I don't, he faltered again, truly losing his composure for the first time that evening. Elon, Keanu softened his tone, almost compassionate. I'm not trying to defeat you in this debate. I'm trying to remind you of what you once believed, that the future is not predetermined, that we can create a better world than the one predicted by cynics and realists. He paused, looking straight into Musk's eyes. I'm trying to remind you that you were never the one to submit to the inevitable. You were the one to create the impossible. There was absolute silence in the room. Musk stood motionless, his gaze fixed somewhere into the distance, as if he had seen something he had not seen before. Finally, he took a deep breath and looked up at Keanu. Perhaps you're right, he said quietly, almost reluctantly. Perhaps I've lost part of the vision I started with. A murmur of surprise went through the room. Musk, known for his stubbornness and unwillingness to admit mistakes, had just done something no one expected. But that doesn't change my view that AI will continue to evolve and transform society, he quickly added, returning to more familiar territory. It's a technological reality. I agree, Keanu nodded. AI will indeed transform society. The question is how. Will it be a tool to replace humans or a tool to unlock human potential? Will it serve the interests of a few or the good of all? Will it be guided by our highest values or merely by economic efficiency? He paused, letting the questions hang in the air. These decisions are not predetermined by technology. They are determined by us, by our values, our choices, our collective vision of the future. Keanu turned to the audience. And that's why I created SHIELD. Not to stop AI, but to give us all a voice in determining its future. So that technology serves humanity and not the other way around. The room erupted in applause. People stood up in support. Even some of Musk's employees, lined up along the walls, couldn't help but nod in approval. Keanu had touched on a deep truth that resonated with everyone in the room. We all want to believe that the future isn't written, that we have a say in what it will be. Oprah rose from her seat, signaling the end of the debate. Today, she said, her voice shaking with emotion, we are witnessing not just an intellectual showdown, but a moment that could determine the direction of our civilization. She turned to the cameras. I ask everyone watching, if you believe that the future should be defined by our shared values, and not just by economic efficiency, if you believe that technology should serve humanity and not replace it, write in the comments right now, I choose the future. Show the world that this is not just a debate. This is a revolution. Keanu stood center stage, his eyes shining with determination, as digital boards around the hall exploded with millions of messages from viewers unanimously declaring their choice.